8. Archer wandered off with an empty plastic container and a full, satisfied feeling in his soul. Parker and Gus had just eaten an entire jar's worth of honey and had become, before Archer had walked away, positively catatonic. He had told Gus to go to football practice and Parker to head home. But then what? Archer didn't know what would happen now. He rounded the corner to exit the school, his mind a blur of possibilities. When he bumped directly into Mabel, they both stumbled backwards. "Oh!" Archer cried in surprise, dropping the container for the second time that day. Without any contents, it was as lightweight as a tennis ball. It bounced down the linoleum hall past his friend. Mabel stabled herself with a stern look on her face. "What did you just do?" Archer avoided her gaze as he walked over and picked up the empty box. "I guess I dropped this. Oops." Mabel edged closer to him and whispered, "Archer, I saw you talking to Gus and Parker. I saw them eating the honey bars. I saw them, I don't know, acting weird." Archer marched to the doors of the school, Mabel on his heels, and waited until they were outside to respond. "I told you we could talk about it later." He still hadn't decided what he was going to say. Mabel leaned into his side. "Tell me what's going on now." Archer looked around. "Shh. Archer, I mean it. Tell me what's going on, or I'm going to tell your grandma you're using her honey bars for evil." He skidded to a halt and, eyes wide, turned to face Mabel. "Leave my grandma out of this." "Then tell me. You made those bars, didn't you? With the honey from Spite Lane?" Archer sighed and rubbed his temples. "Mabel, this is all just so complicated. Can we just walk in silence for a minute? I need to think." "Fine," Mabel grudgingly agreed. They began the journey back to his house without speaking. But it wasn't long before Mabel spoke up. "The honey really is haunted, isn't it?" She asked this in a voice that was quiet, almost reverent, not demanding, like she knew she was asking a loaded question. Still, Archer didn't want to answer. "I thought we agreed not to talk." "Archer, come on," Mabel said, insistent but not angry. "I've been to Spite Lane. I know how things work there." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I know nothing there is really what it seems. I know Spite Lane really is haunted." Archer stopped. "You lied to me." "Watch it, buddy. You're not exactly perfect either," she shot back as she continued walking. Archer jogged to catch up. "You knew about the bees. I don't know the specifics, but I've had my own share of strange experiences on Spite Lane." Mabel's chin fell as she opened up about her first babysitting visit. "My first job on Spite Lane, I watched a little girl named Twyla. Her mom told me not to go upstairs, but Twyla kept sneaking up there." "What was upstairs?" "A voice." "A voice? Whose voice?" "I don't know," Mabel said. "An evil entity? A demon? A poltergeist? Something was in her closet, calling to her. Some kind of paranormal force. It trapped Twyla and her whole family inside." "Trapped? Forever? Like they died?" Archer's voice was barely a whisper at the horrifying thought. "I don't know," Mabel said, more defensively this time. "But if they died, don't you think it would have made the news or something? Wouldn't everyone know? A whole family dying or disappearing, especially a kid? Something like that would be a big deal, wouldn't it?" Archer walked slowly, dragging his feet as he considered. I mean, he would think so. But this is Spite Lane we're talking about. Most people just ignore it entirely. Yeah. They reached the end of the walk in front of Archer's house and stopped. "Mabel, why on earth would you go back there after something like that happened?" Archer asked, with a compassion that surprised even Mabel. Her posture slumped. What if they're not dead? What if they're just in, like, another dimension or something? Mabel asked. Twyla was just a little kid, and her mom seemed nice. What if there was some way I could find them and bring them back? I had to go back to investigate. That can't be the only reason you went back, Archer argued. She blushed. Okay, fine. That's not the only reason I went back. I also needed the money. What for? Well, for one thing, I owe Fernanda for those tickets to Torture Town. Oh, girl, don't worry about that. Fernanda will be fine. She's got a whole savings account. Mabel chewed on her lower lip and tugged at a lock of long, black hair. Also, my mom is in trouble. Oh, Archer said quietly. Mabel's friends all knew her other secret. Mabel's mother had a shoplifting problem. Did she get caught again? She didn't pay rent, is what happened. Mabel sighed, with a shake of her head. I'm trying to help Sivan keep us from getting evicted. Jeez, girl. I had no idea. Of course you didn't, because I haven't told anyone. She gave Archer a preemptive punch in the shoulder. And you can't say anything either. Got it? Archer mimed as though he zipped up his lips, locked them, and threw away the key. But Mabel, this still doesn't explain why you sent me to go babysit there. Mabel shrugged. After what happened to Twyla, it all seemed like a dream, you know? I can't tell you how many times I thought to myself it couldn't have happened, that I must be crazy. But if you went and something supernatural happened, well then, it wouldn't just be me, would it? Now it's your turn. Spill the beans. You made those honey bars with the honey from Spite Lane and gave them to Gus and Parker. Why? What's so special about that honey? Archer rolled his eyes and took a seat on the front stoop of his grandparents' house. Well, I'd say you're not going to believe this, but after your story, I don't think that will be a problem. And with that, he told her everything. He explained how he couldn't stomach writing the revisionist history papers, so he had been paying Parker to do it for him. But he'd run out of birthday money, so he'd taken the job on Spite Lane. Then Gus had stolen his earnings, so he'd had to go back for another gig even though the cellar was full of buzzing bees. But the thing is, the honey has some kind of magical property that makes people do whatever you tell them to do. I thought it would be better to use the honey to talk some sense into Gus and Parker, rather than have to go back to Spite Lane and keep paying for my essays. Talk some sense? Archer, get real. What happens when the effect of the honey wears off? I don't know for sure. Tyler starts to get more energy and follow directions less, but that's different than, I don't know, changing someone's mind about something. right? Like, maybe when it wears off of Gus and Parker, they will still agree that the bars are a better payment than money. I mean, I guess it's possible, but it seems really unlikely, Mabel argued. I gave them a lot of honey, Archer said, cringing a little. Like, a lot. Jeez, Archer, what if you hurt them? I don't think there are any negative effects. How do you know? Well, I don't know for sure, but Tyler seems fine. Oh, geez, Mabel said, covering her face with her hands. I don't know. Maybe we should tell someone, like an adult or something. Archer felt the tingle of guilt tickling inside his guts again. He hated this feeling. If I can prove to you the honey is safe, he offered, then will you help me keep my secret? How are you going to do that? It was Friday, and Archer and Mabel weren't scheduled to babysit on Spite Lane until the following Tuesday. Archer suggested they make a special trip over the weekend to visit the Timberlakes and make sure they were okay. Mabel thought about it for a second and then agreed. Fine. I'll see if I can get Sivan to drive us over there tomorrow. Great, Archer said. Thanks, Mabel. And thanks for keeping my secret. They stood and hugged. As Mabel headed off to walk to her own house, Archer watched her go. He was so relieved to have told someone what was going on. So why didn't he feel any better?